Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Peeling Back the Layers of Your Life podcast. I'm your host, LaRonda C. Giddens. Petrina Bloodworth is an internal audit leader with over 15 years of combined experience in Big Four public accounting, radio broadcast media, manufacturing, and financial services industries. She is a certified fraud examiner, has a master's in professional accountancy. She currently sits on the board of the Atlanta Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, where she is the current president-elect. Her wife, Emma Foulkes, is a certified financial planner professional and a business owner with over 18 years of dedicated financial services experience. Emma is the past president of the Atlanta Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. She also volunteers with various nonprofits and has been featured in Atlanta Magazine, Forbes Magazine, and the Wall Street Journal. She is an Army veteran and a published author. Petrina and Emma were the first same-sex couple in the United States to wed on June 26, 2015, when the Supreme Court lifted the ban on gay marriage. Ladies, I'm just so happy to have you on the show today. And I really wanted to feature you, obviously, because it's February and it's Valentine's Day next week. And, you know, love is in the air. And you as a couple, you came to mind when I wanted to interview someone to kind of share their love story. And it really is a love story. Petrina and Emma, you were the first same-sex couple in the United States to wed on June 26, 2015, when the Supreme Court lifted the ban on gay marriage. Wow. That is absolutely amazing. I think about your relationship, and I actually was reading something earlier this week, and I can't remember, I can kind of kick myself for not remembering the publication, but they were talking about the fact that they were going to be implementing more LGBT lessons in schools and colleges. What does it feel like to know that people around the world will be talking about your story and just the history of your relationship? How does that feel?
Well, for me, I guess I never even fathomed that, you know, that something like that would happen. It's definitely inspiring.
Yeah. What about you, Emma? What do you think about that?
I didn't know. I didn't know that. So it'll take me a little while to process it. You know, it'll probably, you know, feel creepy after a while in the beginning, or, you know, I'll wonder like, well, are people going to have the right story, or are they going to really understand, or, you know what I mean? Like it's hard to, when you just talk about a couple or a person that did something without knowing like a lot of the stuff that went into, you know, the event. But we don't really, I mean, it doesn't, I'm proud that we were the first, but it's not something that we really like dwell on, or it kind of, you're making me blush. It's making me blush, actually.
People around me, like,
it's making me blush.
I first met Petrina about a year ago at the LCC, and just kind of knowing the history, even myself, I was like, wow, that's historical. It's phenomenal to be the first. And, you know, for people to read about that in history books for generations is really something to think about and to consider at some point.
I mean, for our future grandkids or future family members, I guess it's something cool. But for us, nobody treats us our families don't treat us any different. So I don't know that it matters.
That's awesome.
We're still the same people.
Yep. I know, right? That's fantastic.
Yeah, we're still the same people. They don't care. Our families don't care.
They don't really care, right?
No.
So how did you all meet?
Right.
What was the first meeting like?
So I used to attend these parties, ladies that play parties, and
those.
Okay, it was one of the only parties in town at the time, and there was a party at what used to be a restaurant called Cherry, and at night Cherry would turn into a club, or at least this night it was turned into a club, and I saw Emma at the club. She passed by, and I was like, wait, I didn't get a good look. I think she's cute.
That's right. That's right.
And then I was like, I got to get a better look. They're going to a bar. I need to get a better look when she comes back by.
So you noticed her,
she walked back.
The door.
Yeah,
no,
as soon as she walked past me.
Okay.
She walked by me.
Her.
Yeah, and so I thought I've got to keep a watch out for when she comes back so I can get a better look.
Yeah. And I saw her. Yeah, I saw her. I'm not going to tell the whole thing. You could finish it, Trina, but I saw her. My friends had walked me around, kept asking me what's my type and who I like. And I kept saying, I don't know. When I see it, I'll tell you. And I saw Petrina standing near the bar area up against the wall. And I told my friend, like, oh, that's what I like. That's what I like right there. That's what I like. And yeah. And then you can go ahead from there, Trina.
I hear the blushing in your voice.
I love it. After all these years, I love it.
So when she walked back by, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, she is cute. So I just kind of took notice of where she stationed herself in the club, and I decided to kind of make my way on over to that area and just start dancing in the general area. And I was there with a friend, she was there with her friend, and you know, we were like, her and her friends got on the floor right behind us, and right before I was going to turn around and go, I think we need to switch. Not even knowing who this friend was she was with, her friend turned around and said, switch. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Wow. So the stars were really aligned that night for the both of you, really.
Oh, yeah, because I wasn't supposed to go out that night. I wasn't going out. My friends took me out the house, dragged me out the house, but I was adamant about not wanting to be bothered with just the whole dating scene and going to clubs and things like that. I wasn't interested.
Right.
And so, like, you know, yeah, everything lined up like it was supposed to.
So why weren't you in a place where you were just like, and I know that feeling very well. I know that feeling of just like, you know what, I'm good for now. I just not interested in meeting anybody. I'm okay with just kind of hanging out with my friends occasionally. Where were you?
Well,
what kind of space were you in that you just were like, no, I'm good?
I was in a figuring out who I was and what I wanted space, but that's not why I didn't want to go out that night. I didn't want to go out that night because I wasn't sure I was going to be interested in dating women, because a friend of mine had taken me to another club on Memorial Drive. And after seeing the people in there, I was thinking, you know what?
I'm familiar with that place too, Emma.
Yes, this is not for me.
I know what you mean.
I'm good until, you know, if something's going to happen, how it's going to happen, it'll happen. But I'm going to nobody's club to meet anybody ever, no woman ever. So, yeah,
wow.
That's why I was being reluctant. Like, no, thank you.
And I just kind of actually a little, like, I've always been, you know, when I date, like, it really wasn't dating. Like, I would really date one person at a time instead of dating in the true sense of the meaning. And so it was actually the first time that I had decided, you know what, I'm just going to go out and have fun, and I'm just going to date whoever and more than one person. And,
so you were
and I'm not looking for anybody. I was trying to.
I'm charming. I'm very charming and persuasive.
Clearly you are.
No.
So tell me about after the club and after you exchanged phone numbers and all of that, what was the initial courtship like for the two of you?
It was weird for me. It was just a little different than it was weird. It was weird for me. She wasn't like anyone I had ever dealt with before. I was used to people just really sweating me.
Right.
Not to sound, you know, whatever, or just all into me. And I don't think Trina could care if I was breathing. Like, it was just such a blow to my ego. Like, you know, like, don't you know
who I am? Excuse me.
Yeah.
And she probably was saying the same thing. Don't you know who I am?
No, she was saying, I don't care who you are. She didn't care. She didn't care. So it was a challenge for me for a minute. It was a challenge for me to just be like, okay.
So Petrina, what was going on with you? Why were you just kind of, like, where were you? What kind of space were you in? We know that you were kind of,
so,
dating different people, but when you met Emma and you
yes.
saw her in the club and you were like, okay, yeah, that one.
Yeah, I'm still dating other people.
Yeah. So it was, the first time I was like, I'm going to try and date more than one person at a time. And, for me, that's kind of like just talking on the phone,
Right.
like talking, maybe going out to dinner here and there or
Right.
what have you. So there were like two other people that I was kind of talking on the phone, going out to dinners with, in addition to Emma. And it was just kind of like a weed out process. It was like, people kind of show their colors, and Emma was, the last one standing.
And she was very honest. She was honest with me that she was dating other people. And the opposite of her, I had to learn how to focus on one person. I had a history of dating people that, may have been very good looking, but lacking in substance. So I'd go find someone else that was with the substance. And so then I'm dealing with two, it just got really confusing and et cetera. And I wanted to find everything that I needed in one person. And I had written a list before I met her of what I was looking for in, whoever I ended up with. And so even though she said, well, I'm dating other people, so you need to date other people too. And I was like, no, you don't know me. I don't really think that's a good idea. I need to just kind of focus because I'm easily distracted.
So what were some of the things on your list?
A few things on my list were they had to have an education. They had to have a career. They had to be a good person, good heart. And they had to be trustworthy, things like that.
And what about you, Petrina? What was on your list? How were you able to narrow down those three ladies that you were having conversation with?
So one was pretty easy. It was one moved away, and I was like not doing the long distance thing. So that was one. And then didn't want anybody that had young children at the time. Had to have a career as well, or be able to hold like a good conversation about, where you were in your career, where you saw yourself going.
Right.
Just somebody pretty much kind of equally yoked in a sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So do you find that at that time when you were both still dating in Atlanta, and Atlanta seems like the place where you could find all of those things and partner with someone fairly easy, did you find that it was a fairly easy process or not really?
I think it was fairly easy. I've always pretty much ran and been able to run in different circles. Atlanta is a little cliquish, but I've always been somebody that I meet all different kinds of people. My friends would come to me and ask, where's the party at tonight? Because I would know all the things happening all around town, even if I didn't, if it wasn't my type of spot. So, yeah, I guess it was relatively easy, but then I felt like it was probably a little bit harder the older I got.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think when you start narrowing down, like when you're young, certain things just aren't important to you. There's certain things that are important to you. You're still kind of shallow and superficial.
Right.
And when I met Petrina, I was breaking out of that being shallow and superficial and, making some, tough decisions because my son was a teenager, I think, at the time. Mm-hmm. And, I think when, kids watch everything that you do.
They do.
And so I had to kind of, take stock that, okay, I can't, I don't want to be frivolously dating or introducing him to, different people, things like that. So, I'm going to have to be serious so that he can know what a healthy relationship looks like.
Right.
I owe him at least that. So for me, by the time I met her, my priorities had changed and had shifted. What I was looking for had shifted. What I would settle for had shifted. Yeah, it was. So what was available to me out there, just because it was available doesn't mean it was for me.
Right. That totally makes sense. I can totally attest to that. I feel the same way. I feel like now I'm just at a place where everything that you just said, that's where I am. And as the wiser you become, the more life lessons you've learned and experiences you've had with different people, you start to think differently, and your wants and your needs and desires definitely change. And for me at this point, I'm ready for a committed relationship. I'm ready to be married and, you know, do the whole nine. It's interesting.
We want to see everybody married and the whole nine.
Mm-hmm.
We love love. We're like the biggest fans of love.
That's awesome. And you guys, when I was around you,
not...
you just exude love. Just the way that you care for each other, and it's really nice to see that. It's really great to see.
Yeah, I like to see people in love, but I'm not a good matchmaker at all. Like at all.
You told me that before.
I want to like introduce my friends and it's somebody else. I want to see it, but no. I don't have a good track record.
No,
yep.
I will
now,
put the brakes on that. That was my
yeah, if I start down that road, she will stop me.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you say, "Oh man, these two would be great for each other."
So what we will do now, if there's even an inkling of a chance. Like, we may put people in the same room, but we won't say anything.
Yeah.
What happens will happen or not, and leave it at that.
And that's
no
probably the
pressure
best
on
way
anybody.
to do it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're attracted, and that way there's no, we don't feel any kind of way if things don't work out.
Right.
We have nothing to do with it.
That's pretty smart, though. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of advice would you give singles who want to be in a committed relationship that leads to marriage? What kind of advice would you give them?
Well, it's definitely not, a field of roses. It's not easy. It's not it's not Disney that you see on TV.
This Is Us or whatever that show is that makes everybody cry.
Right.
And so, you have to learn how to communicate better and decide, realize, what your partner like, their love language and how they, value certain things that you do, and how to speak their language so that you're satisfying each other. And
that takes a long time, though. Yeah, and I think that I would tell a single person to kind of know who they are first and know what they want first. Take care of yourself first. Be your whole self first, because you can't come into a relationship kind of not all the way there. You know, when you're not all the way there, you get not all the way there. So once you feel that you're in a place where you're comfortable with where you are, then you'll find what you're looking for, and also don't settle. I tell single people, don't stay with a person just because you've been with them for X number of years. This is just time.
Right.
Time is just time. Everybody deserves happiness. So the person that you're with, if you want to be with someone, make yourself whole, and then find somebody that has a lot of similarities that you do. So the one thing that really attracted me to Petrina was that we like different types of music together. Like we both like the same types of music. We're pretty eclectic. We can go from rap, reggae, reggaeton, house, classical, all up and down the spectrum, rock music. And I love that about her, because it meant she would be open to experience.
Exactly.
And that's very important to me, because my background is very diverse. So I wanted to be with someone who wasn't gonna, call me a white girl or, make fun of, make fun of certain things, like, because I'm enjoying my life and have experienced different things, that makes me a white girl. Like, I didn't want to deal with that anymore, So when, we talked, I would ask her about her experiences and what does she do for fun, those types of things. And I was thinking, okay, this is a person who, I can relate to. That's the best thing is, can I relate and grow with this person? So, that person should be your friend. It's not just about sex. It's not just about look. All of that stuff can fade and go away, And
it does.
Is this person that, and you were with us, she's my best friend. We hang out together. We have a lot of fun together. Like, we don't need a lot of people around us. It could just be me and her and the TV, and we're going to clown. We have a great time together.
That's great. I love to hear that. And like I said, I could see that. You guys exude that in your relationship. I can see it without you even saying anything to each other. That's really great. I love that. So, Petrina, you were talking about love languages. How important is that in a relationship?
Pretty important to know your partner's love language, because you know, most people tend to do for others or show love to others how they feel love, but your partner may not receive that, you know, may not feel loved based on what you do for them. You know, everybody grew up differently, had different experiences, and so their love language is different. You know, Emma likes for me to wash the coffee pot in the, you know, at night so she can get up and make her coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
So,
coffee for us.
you know, that's an act of love for her. And yeah, for me, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like it's a sliding scale. I think I'm somewhere between words of affirmation, or we both are probably somewhere between words of affirmation and acts of service.
What is it that Petrina does for you, Emma, that just makes your entire day?
Is my mom going to hear this?
Well, it's going to be on Spotify and iTunes.
I know.
It's going to be everywhere. So, yeah.
What is she, when she, what was the question? What is it that she does that makes my day?
That just makes your day. Something you think about in the middle of your day. When you think about her, you're just like, wow.
I think it could be, I mean, with us, things are so, like, when I tell you things are just so not, I just don't feel we have a traditional relationship. It could be her sending a funny text to me. It could be her sending a GIF, or, you know, it could be a middle finger that she, I mean, it could be a number of things that she does, you know, that's like, makes me realize, like, oh my God, I really said I do to this woman.
Right.
Like, oh God.
Like, oh, I said I do.
I said I do. Wow. Sign me up for that. More of that, please. So when she does stuff like that, that's just really cute and not, you know, it could be sarcastic. Like she's pretty sarcastic with me. So when she's sarcastic sometimes and a different side of her comes out, like, yeah, that's kind of it. But there's not, I can't tell you that there's one thing that she does that I'll think about, because on any given day, it could be something. So every once in a while, you know, she'll say how do I say this? The not so brightest thing she's ever said before.
Right.
She'll make the most ridiculous comments. And so in the middle of the day, I would think that I can't believe she said that. And like she actually said that out loud. And so things like that.
And what about for you, Petrina? What is your day like? And you think about Emma and you're like, wow.
Yeah, just that, you know, I can always be myself and we understand each other. So yeah, the little communications during the day, nothing in particular, but that, you know, we both have drive and we're both trying to, you know, build an empire together. Right. And, you know, that's attractive too. It's
very attractive. It sure is.
It is. Talk money to me, baby.
This has turned into a real chick fest. I want y'all to know that.
It's a Valentine's Day. It's a Valentine's Day.
So let me ask you this question. When people are having challenges in their relationship, would you recommend for them to get counseling?
Absolutely, yes. Not only do I recommend they get counseling, I recommend they don't tell their friends about anything. When you're having problems, it is between you and that person, and you don't need any feedback from the peanut gallery.
Right.
So find a therapist that you are both comfortable with, interview someone that you're both, a few people until you find someone you're both comfortable with. Mm-hmm. But we wouldn't have made it, in my opinion, if it wasn't for counseling. I think, Trina, you may think differently. But we both had to grow, counseling forces you to look at yourself and look at how you were raised and this baggage that you come into relationships with, because that's what you saw growing up. You know what I mean? You need a safe space where somebody else can kind of call you on your stuff.
Totally agree with that. Yep. And I say that all the time. I think it's important for us to really understand, and I call it's baggage. A lot of it is dysfunction. When I look back at my life, I call it dysfunction. and just not really knowing and understanding what love truly is. And it wasn't until I was turning 50 a few years ago that I was writing my first book. And I literally burst out in tears because I was sitting there at almost 50 years old, not really knowing what love was and what it really meant. And I think about it now and I get emotional because it's all of my life. That's been the biggest challenge for me. And I remember I was watching Oprah Winfrey. She was interviewing Gary Zukav, author of See the Soul. And she asked him, Gary, what is, out of all the things in your life, what has been your biggest challenge? And that's what he said, love. He's like, love has been the biggest challenge for me because I feel like for me, it just kind of has eluded me all of my life because I never really knew what it was. I was very foggy about that. But I started to notice patterns when I started to attract the same person over and over again. And it was the same lesson over and over again. And I literally just stopped dating for several years. And I said, you know what? I've got to figure this out. I've got to figure out, why do I keep attracting the same person over and over again? It's not about that other person. This is about me. And I love what you said before about, really knowing yourself and understanding yourself. And it's so important when you're merging with another person to be in a committed relationship, to understand your stuff and to understand what's going on with that other person, to be able to come together to have a relationship.
Yeah. And and again, it's not like, it's easy for me to say it now and probably very easy for her to say it now. But early on in our relationship, it was, and I feel it was very difficult in the beginning of our relationship. We had to learn to trust that, one, that we trusted each other, and then two, that neither of us would ever do anything to intentionally hurt the other person. And I think when you're with someone and that that they never do anything to intentionally hurt you, when they do hurt you, it's not coming from a bad place. So it's easier to work past whatever the hurt was.
Right.
So it took a while. It took a while, for us, I think, to kind of understand, and we grow together. That's the thing I love about us.
Yeah, that's important.
It's hard for people sometimes to say, you hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
And that's what, it comes out in the form of, anger or, and so, yeah, it's about, you got to communicate and realize, okay, you hurt my feelings because of X, Y, Z, and that's why I responded the way I did, and, talk through that instead of, shutting down and then creating that distance and then, possibly risking the relationship because of it.
Wow. I'm sitting here and I'm listening to the shutting down part and not being to express yourself. And I kind of went through a period where, and I just kind of discovered this recently over the last couple of weeks, of not being able to be heard. So even if I did communicate what I was thinking, what I was feeling, the other person not really receiving it. So if I'm perceiving that person's not receiving what I'm saying to them, then I'm automatically going to shut down. I'm not going to have the confidence the next time to come to that person and say A, B, C, or D because I don't feel like I'm being heard. So then I get into the passive aggression, and then all these different things start to manifest outside of, what we're really dealing with. So you have to kind of be aware of how you respond when someone responds in a certain way. It's just, like you said, trying to figure out each other's love language, each other's, how they do things, how they were raised, and how that affects them. And it's interesting. It's very intricate, and I don't think a lot of people spend that time in understanding what this is really all about. Because if you don't understand yourself first, you're not going to be able to communicate who you are to another person. And it goes way beyond the superficial things that are on top of the surface. It's peeling those layers to get to, okay, this is who I really am. And I feel like inside we're just all little children, walking around in grown-up bodies trying to get our needs met.
We are, but then the other side of this too is that a lot of us, many of us, did not grow up and watch or see functional relationships.
True.
So if you take two people who did not grow up in a household with functional, loving relationships, and then you put them into a relationship, how do they know how to receive someone when they're being their most vulnerable and sharing their feelings?
Absolutely.
So we take a lot of things for granted, but and, I'm even watching my son deal with people now going, wow, there's a lot of damage out there when people don't see how to operate or rock in a relationship.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a learning, yeah. So a lot of us are we're just already behind. We're behind already. We're at a disadvantage coming in.
Yeah, there's no rule book to life.
Not at all.
Yeah, so we're at a disadvantage, we're at a total disadvantage.
Wow.
And I would say the other thing is, after we realized, that we loved each other and we, wanted to be together, breaking up was not an option.
I love that.
No matter how bad the argument was, we needed to communicate and talk through it. Breaking up was not an option.
What year was this?
Now you're going way back.
Okay, so that's what I'm asking. I'm like, where
I have no idea.
Okay.
So who decided that there's no breaking up? Who made that decision? Was it a collective decision, or did you just say,
I
know
think
the answer.
Came. Oh, well, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you say. I want to hear what you have to say.
I think it actually came out of a therapy session.
That's awesome.
Oh, okay. Possibly. I think I was going to say, I thought you had given me an ultimatum about my nonsense and always running and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it probably did happen in therapy.
So you had some nonsense
okay,
going
I'll
on,
take
Emma?
that. Oh, I was a runner. Every time I got mad, I'm like, I'm out. I'm out. Because I ran away from stuff like, what? What? I'm breaking up with you. And she's like, again?
That's what you said last week. Here we go again.
Come on and get your stuff. Like, we got to do this again. Like, come on.
I said it, but I didn't mean it.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how far into the relationship had you guys just said, you know what, this is it, we're in it?
How far into it?
How many years had passed before you got to a point where you're just like, you know what, I love you, you love me, we're doing this?
Oh, wow. I think you just know.
I think for me, it's when we decided to go to counseling.
Okay.
When we made a decision to go to counseling, because we were possibly 2 years. I don't remember. It was still kind of, some time had passed, and it was like, I knew that I wanted to be with her. There was just some stuff about her that drove me crazy. And I know there was some stuff about me that drove her crazy. And I remember thinking that, like, I don't want to go back out there and have to, like, go through all of this again. And, at the root of it, she's never done anything to hurt me. We're just not great communicators.
Right.
We say we do a lot of stuff to hurt each other's feelings because we're hurt, but we're not, you know what I mean? So from that aspect, I realized, kind of early on that she was just a good person. Like, she wasn't a nasty person. She just wasn't a mean person. So for me, I think it may have happened a lot earlier on. I knew I wanted to be with her. I knew she was it for a minute.
Yeah.
A lot longer than she did. Way before she did.
Wow. When did you know, Petrina?
I don't know. I guess there comes a point, like she said, she was a runner, and there came a time when I was like, yeah, I heard that story before, whatever. She's saying this stuff and doesn't mean it, and whatever.
But let me ask you this question. Let me interrupt you and ask this question. Did you understand where the running was coming from? Did you understand why she was doing that?
No, not at the time. I think eventually some of that may have come out in a therapy session.
So did you do couples therapy, or did you do individual, or did you do both?
We did couples therapy. And did we do individual?
Did you do individual?
I think so. I did individual. Yeah, I did individual stuff because I wanted to work on some more stuff.
That's great.
I think I did some individual counseling too.
I think it's fantastic. A lot of times therapy gets a bad rap. Counseling gets a bad rap. I love psychology. I'm a forensic psychology major, so I wholeheartedly just dive right in on all things psychology and just wanting to understand myself better and the people around me better. It's just really important to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well,
Interesting.
I've been playing around with therapy and counseling since I was like 16. So I've never thought it was a bad thing. I think it's just something that, you know, my mother introduced me to it as a way to just let off steam and talk to somebody and, you know, get an unbiased opinion about stuff. And so I've never known therapy to be a bad thing. I just knew people thought it was bad.
And the people that think it's bad probably would benefit greatly
Need it.
from counseling.
Like so many other things.
And yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, because like sometimes I guess in therapy things might come up and you realize it goes back to childhood, and then you kind of have
Everything
to address
does.
that. But
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, and, you know, I work with young people, and, you know, some of the questions I would always ask when we start talking about relationships and different things like that, you know, I ask them, who's the first person you ever loved? And obviously they'll say mom or dad or both. But think about it from this perspective. If that relationship with the person that you love, the very first person that you love, if it's dysfunctional, that sets the tone for your entire life. That's just how you see relationships. And I look at myself with my relationship with my mother, and I can see it. I totally get it now. I feel like my entire life makes sense to me now, because I've taken the time to just kind of look at that relationship, and I see patterns that are just like, wow, unbelievable, unbelievably mind-blowing.
Yeah.
You ladies have been great. So let me ask you this question. You hear people talk about Petrina and Emma, their relationship goals, #relationship goals. That's you guys. People look at your relationship and they're like, wow, I want to be just like them. What do y'all think about that? Because we have a tendency of looking at people's relationship. And I didn't get a chance to read the article earlier, but somebody had posted something on Facebook about, don't look at my relationship and see it as relationship goals, because you really don't know the backstory of this relationship. Develop your own relationship and allow that to be your relationship goals. What do y'all think about that?
Dilly dilly. That's what I think.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everybody, like, you know, a lot of people are lazy. So people, you know, we put in work. Trina and I are like the hardest working people. Like, from our careers, like everything that we do, we go in wholeheartedly and we put our all into it. We're not lazy and we don't do anything half-cocked. Yeah. So for us, like a lot of people will say, oh, we want what you have, but are you willing to go through what we went through to have it?
Exactly. And the answer,
you know what I mean?
No.
A lot of people, right. A lot of people, you know, wouldn't go through what we went through. And it hasn't all, you know, hasn't been bad. Like the coolest thing about our relationship is we have never violated, you know, there's a few absolute things that neither of us would tolerate.
Right.
And we've never violated those things. Right. So everything else kind of is gravy above that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like we can get past it. So for us, because we haven't violated certain things, you know, we can work on whatever it is. But a lot of people, you know, people don't want to put in the work at a time or whatever, and you get what you get.
Yeah, that's true. So anything else you want to say to the general public, the audience, that we haven't talked about today?
You know, I forgot we were talking to the public.
Like I said, it was a chick fest the whole time.
I forgot it. Oh.
There's actually
drink more milk. To the listeners, oh wow, what would I say to someone? You know, it's Valentine's Day. To me, Valentine's Day is every day. If you're with someone that you love, you show them that love every single day. It shouldn't come down to one day of the year or a few days of the special holidays of the year. Valentine's Day doesn't mean what it meant to me when I was younger. It's just another day to me now, because there's nothing, I guarantee there's nothing she's really going to do for me on Valentine's Day that she doesn't do on pick any other day during the year.
Right.
So make sure that whoever you're with, that person also makes you feel that way too. That's what I would say.
Awesome. So what about you, Petrina? What are your final words to the listeners, the people out there to our private conversation? The nerve of them.
Ditto.
Oh, that's weak. That's so weak. That's so weak. I should have let you go first. I knew I
That's why we compliment each other well.
Exactly. Exactly. We all have our roles in our relationships. That's awesome.
Yes.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining me today. I greatly appreciate your kindness and your willingness to just sit and chat and talk about your relationship and talk about your love story and the historic moment that you created back in June 2015. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're making me blush again. Stop it.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you so much for listening to Peeling Back the Layers of Your Life podcast. I'm your host, LaRonda C. Giddens. You can connect with me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram by searching my name, but the best way to find me is on my website at www.larondacgiddens.com. I'll see you next time, everybody.